Alright, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be shooting this flower that you can see in front of you, and we have this nice green background behind it. So we're going to blur this using our aperture. So in this video, everything will be going together, your shutter speed, aperture, ISO. So you'll just see how all this works together. And also, we're going to face a challenge here when we shoot this video. So let's see what that challenge is and how will we overcome that. So let's go inside the shop. Alright, so we have zeroed on this beautiful flower that we have in front of us, this pink flower, and we're going to absolutely go from A to Z and shoot this video so that you would exactly know how ISO, shutter speed, aperture, everything works together. And also you'll be learning about one of the most vital accessories used especially in outdoor video shooting, which you're just about to find out what it is in this video. Right, so one thing I just want to tell you is that I've set my camera on the tripod. We will be covering tripod later on in this course. I've also used manual focus, a technique called as manual focus, to focus on this flower, and we'll be talking about manual focus versus autofocus in the very next video, which is dedicated to focusing. But right now our focus, no pun intended, is on just seeing how to take a shot using our aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. How do these three settings work together, right? So let's start. So first of all, in fact, let's absolutely start from scratch. So the first thing, of course, if you want to shoot a video like this, is that you're going to go to your, where is it? Your movie settings, wherever you can find that on your camera, and you're going to basically select, make sure that your frame size or your resolution is set to the 1080p, and you can see I've got my 24 frame rate selected. So this is done. Next, what should be the shutter speed? Because we want you can see that this flower is moving a lot because of the wind, and we want this movement to appear natural to your eye. That's why we're shooting on 24 frame rate, and so my shutter speed should be set to 1/50. And the problem that I'm going to demonstrate is to you when we're shooting this is already happening, which is that you can see the moment I start to take my shutter speed below, we're increasing the amount of light that comes in the camera. That's what happens when you decrease the shutter speed. And obviously right now I cannot shoot this video because this is going to come out overexposed, right? But we know that we cannot do anything about this because this has to stay at 1/50. In photography, when you're facing this problem, you can just increase the shutter speed, cut down light, get your meter in the center and shoot. But in this case, you don't want to do that because we've already seen if you increase your shutter speed, you start to get that robotic, choppy movement in your videos, which is something that you should be avoiding, right? So we don't touch shutter speed, but we're going to do something with these settings first. So let's bring down our ISO first of all. So we're going to just get this as low as possible, and you can see we're able to save some light because we were not unnecessarily using 500. So I've got it down to as less of an ISO as possible when I've got it to 100. But you can still see, if I just switch off the live view, you'll be able to see the meter is still kind of towards the positive side. So it's still telling me that this is overexposed. Now, one of the things I can do to correct this is I can increase my f-stop number. We know that if you increase the f-stop number, the aperture hole starts to close, as you can see here, and this is going to cut down the light, right? So you can see like this. But the problem will be, yeah, I'll be able to kind of, get my video, remove this problem of overexposure. But the problem will be that I won't get such a good looking video. That's because our background won't be blurred. So that's another thing that the f-stop does, that it blurs the background. And in this case, this flower is against this really nice green background. So I want it absolutely butter blurred, and I don't want to lose that depth of field. I want to use a shallow depth of field, and therefore I need to use a small f-stop number. Now, in fact, I'm going to be using a very small f-stop number. So I'm using, the lens that I'm using here is the 85mm f1.8 lens. So this lens can actually go down all the way down to f1.8 and give me a very nice smooth blurred background. So that is fine, but you can see the moment I try to do that, the meter goes towards the positive. That's because when we're decreasing the f-stop number, the aperture fully opens up, and therefore your meter goes towards the positive. And if I show you the video, I can't take you, it's almost white, so much of light is entering. And this is one of the most common problems faced when you're shooting outdoors and when you want a shallow depth of field. That is, you want the background to be blurred, plus you're shooting outdoors or in any situation in which there's a lot of light, the problem will be that so much of light will enter your camera that you won't be able to shoot that video. So you'll have to sacrifice your depth of field. You'll have to settle for a background which looks sharp, and that just does not look good. So this is where a very important accessory comes into play, which is called as an ND filter or a neutral density filter. And in this case, we won't just be using any normal type of neutral density filter. We'll be using something called as a variable neutral density filter, a variable ND filter. So first of all, let's go to our room where I'll show you what this variable ND filter looks like, how it attaches to your camera, and then we're also going to talk a bit about it, and then we're going to come back right here and continue shooting this video. Alright, so this is how an ND filter looks like, or a neutral density filter. Alright, so this is how an ND filter looks like, or a neutral density filter, and usually this just goes on top of your camera here on the lens. So you can just, your lens has a thread here on which you can just screw this on like this. And what this basically does is, as you can see, this is like a dark filter, and this is just going to cut down the light coming inside your camera. So when we were shooting outside, we were facing the problem of overexposure because of the settings that we were using, and plus also because we were shooting in broad daylight. So this is going to act like, think of it like shades. Like when you wear shades, the amount of light going in your eyes just gets reduced. So they're like shades for your camera, and you can just put them on and you'll see that the meter starts to just go towards the negative side, or it'll just move towards the center when you put this on. That's because you're decreasing the amount of light. Now this is a variable ND filter. That means that I can actually make this stronger or weaker just by rotating this ring. So there's a ring here, and which can just be rotated to change the strength. Now you can see it's much more, you can see through it, but if I just rotate it, you can increase the strength. And this is very, very helpful in videography. That's because, as opposed to photography, where the fixed ND filters, the normal ND filters are more popular because you can change around your shutter speed, and then you can get your meter in the center, because shutter speed is not such a big problem in photography. But in videography, we have seen that we cannot really change the settings too much. So you need a variable ND filter so that you can, just change the strength of the filter right here, from one filter itself. Like we don't have to, if you were using fixed ND filters, then you would have to do the calculations and get the correct ND filter of a particular strength. But because this has a variable strength, you can just move this around, and depending on how much light you need to cut, you can just adjust it from this ring itself. So it's very, very helpful in making videos. And so this has like you can see, this has a minimum value and a maximum value. And of course, if you go towards the maximum, it's going to cut down the maximum light. It becomes darker, and the other way around. So we're going to go out now, because we are facing the problem of overexposure. We're going to put this on our lens when we go out, and then we'll just fine tune our exposure by rotating this ring to change the strength of this ND filter till the time the meter comes around in the center. So let's go back and let's do this. All right, so now that you know how the variable ND filter works, right now I'm just attaching this in front of my lens. And there we go. So this is attached in front of my lens. Now, if we look at this, it's gone really dark. So that's because this filter right now is set to the maximum darkening part, where the filter is at its strongest. So I'm just going to turn this part where it just gets to the faded lighter part, and you can see that the video starts to become brighter as I rotate this, or darker if I use the stronger setting. So you don't always have to go with your eye. You can also just look at your meter and just rotate this till the time the meter is coming in the center, and then you can see if you like that look or not. So this is absolutely perfect. I'm being able to get a very good exposure. Maybe, like always, I think I just want to go slightly towards the positive side. So maybe I won't absolutely follow what the meter is telling me. I'll just rotate the ring on this filter till it's slightly overexposed towards the positive side, sorry. And I think this should give me, I think it's become slightly brighter, so I think the meter was almost correct. So I'll just go a tad on the positive side, maybe just this much. And yeah, I think this to my eye looks absolutely fantastic. I think because of some of the movements that I was making, I've just missed focus here. I'm just gonna focus back, and this is something you learn, as I said, in the next video. All right. So I think now everything is set. We've got a good exposure, and thanks to the variable ND filter, so it has just cut down that light, which was because of so much of light was coming in because of the f1.8, and because we could not do anything about these settings anymore. That's where you have to use a ND filter. So the variable ND filter has helped us, and now all I have to do is simply press the record button and record this video and just have fun with it. So let's see how this video looks. All right, so this is the video that we've got, and I think this looks pretty good. We've got a nice blurred background, a shallow depth of field, and we've got the proper exposure, even though we were shooting under a lot of light thanks to the variable filter that we just used. And if you notice the movement of this flower, you'll find that it looks pretty natural, like you were watching this with your own eyes. So that's because we're shooting this at 24 frames per second. Now I've also shot the same video at 50 frames per second, which is just going to start now, this one. So this is being shot at 50 frames per second and a shutter speed of 1/100. And you can again see the same thing that we saw in the earlier video where we compared these two frame rates, that this time the movement of the flower, if you just observe carefully, just kind of looks slightly unnatural as compared to the 24 frame rates video. And that's because, of course, you're using a faster shutter speed, which is just going to reduce the motion blur, the 1/100 shutter speed. And if you take the frame rate higher, you take the shutter speed higher, this effect will be more prominent. And the reason I'm telling you this is because a lot of times you might be tempted, let's say if you don't have a variable ND filter, you might be tempted to cut down that light by increasing your shutter speed. And a lot of people do that. So it's not like it's completely wrong, but then you might get this choppy or robotic movement in your video if you're saving that light by, if you're reducing the light by increasing the shutter speed if you don't have the filter. So it's always better to have the filter. In case you don't have, you really won't be having too much of a choice other than increasing the shutter speed. But in that case, you might just get this problem of the movements of your subjects not looking too natural, right? So I'll see you in the next video. I hope you like this one. Bye for now.